I am X. I recently met a man on Facebook. At first, it was simple. We exchanged messages, laughs, ideas. We talked about everything and nothing, dreams, pains. Gradually, our conversations took on a different tone. He told me he liked me, and I felt that connection too. Not love, just a gentle, sincere affection. We kept talking every day, and then he invited me to come see him. I thought it might be nice, a real moment, a real meeting. I took the train, spent my money, packed my things, full of hope. When I arrived at his place, everything seemed quiet, almost too quiet. We shared an intimate moment, a moment when I felt close to him. Then, sitting in his living room, there was a noise at the door. A woman entered with a little girl. She looked at me, greeted me as if I were a stranger. Then she asked who I was. And there, the man replied without hesitation, "She's here for a job interview, as a maid." I froze, my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I wanted to disappear. Shame overwhelmed me, a dull pain in my chest. I couldn't believe he just reduced me to that, to such a low role. I cried silently, then asked to leave. He told me, "I'll let you know if you're hired." I left the house, humiliated, hurt. I had never felt such pain. After that humiliation, I stood outside for a moment, breathless, my eyes full of tears. How could he? How could I have believed his sweet words, his promises on Facebook? I thought about all our exchanges, the hours spent talking, and him, reducing me to a servant in front of his family. I was hurt, humiliated, but also furious. How could he treat me like that? I had spent money, time, trust. All for what? A cruel joke? A sordid game? I didn't have the courage to call. I just wanted to go home. But how to forget? How to silence that shame? I sat in a cafe, trembling, seeking comfort in the noise and human warmth. I thought about writing to someone, but to whom? I decided to send him a message. Not to beg, no. Just to ask to be reimbursed for the trip, the expenses, this pain. He blocked me everywhere, as if I had vanished. That broke me even more. Then I thought, if he refuses, I'll find another way. That way was this page, this channel, where I knew he would pass sooner or later. So here I am, facing you, telling my story. I spent $50,000 for nothing, but it's not just that. I lost a part of myself that day, my trust in others, in love. I just want him to know what I went through wasn't fair. I want him to know there are limits not to be crossed. And his wife must know the truth, not to destroy their couple, but so the truth comes out. I didn't come looking for a maid's job. I came for something real, human, and he turned me into a joke, an object. I refuse to leave this story unanswered. I want to get my money back, and above all, my dignity. I know he blocked me everywhere, but that won't stop me. I will continue until he understands people are not pawns. I began to wonder what had motivated this man to act that way. Was it a test? A perversion? Or just cruelty for cruelty's sake? I didn't understand. And yet, I had believed his words, his virtual smile. The veil lifted on a man who was not who he claimed to be. A man capable of manipulating, humiliating, lying. I started writing down my thoughts, my emotions. The story of this humiliation. To not sink. To rebuild. Little by little, I regained confidence. I understood it wasn't my fault. That I wasn't guilty of believing in him. I talked to friends who supported me. I decided not to keep this to myself, to speak out, so others wouldn't suffer. I also started thinking about legal ways to get my $50,000 back, even if it was small compared to the emotional wound. But it was a symbol of what I now refuse. Talking around me, I discovered that this man was not unknown. Several women had similar stories, humiliated, betrayed, ignored. I realized I wasn't alone. There was a pattern, toxic behavior. I decided to investigate, find evidence, testimonies. To no longer be an isolated victim. I found online groups, forums where others shared their stories, their suffering, their fight. It was comforting to see solidarity existed, that we could support and defend each other. But also frightening, because the repetition of these abuses showed how dangerous he could be. I felt stronger, better equipped. I decided to use this channel to denounce, not for revenge, but for justice. Because no one deserves to be treated like that. Because everyone deserves respect. My message on this page quickly spread. Many read, commented, shared. Some were shocked, others angry. Women sent me private messages thanking me for speaking out, for sharing their own stories. I realized what I was living was a common fight. that many of us were struggling against these invisible violences. But there were also threats, mockery, anonymous people accusing me of trying to ruin the man. Some tried to minimize my story, reduce it to a misunderstanding. I knew this fight wouldn't be easy. That truth scares. That women's voices are often ignored or belittled. So I decided to go further, to contact associations, lawyers, to learn about my rights, so that this would not be just a cry into the void, but a concrete action. I met a lawyer specialized in emotional and psychological abuse victims' rights. She listened carefully, explained my options. Even if material proof was scarce, the fact that he humiliated me publicly, lied, and blocked me everywhere could constitute moral damage. She advised me to gather all messages, photos, testimonies I could find, to document every detail, every exchange. Because justice needs concrete facts to act. This work required a lot of courage, but I felt I was taking back control, taking back my life. Meanwhile, I kept writing, speaking on this channel, raising awareness. No longer afraid. Showing that behind every innocent message may lie a painful story. One day, when I thought everything would stall, I received an anonymous message. Someone offered information about him, his true intentions, past victims. I decided to meet in a public place. Fear and curiosity mixed. This person gave me names, dates, facts. Proof that the man was not only a manipulator, but a predator, using charm and lies to abuse vulnerable women. This meeting was a shock, but also a revelation. I was on the right path. I had to continue. Armed with this new information, I organized a meeting with other victims. Together, we shared our stories, our pain, our hopes. This solidarity gave me strength. We decided to create a support and action group. To denounce, protect, heal, we contacted the local press, social media, to alert, to ensure this man could no longer harm. It was a long fight, full of doubts, fears, but also small, precious victories. The trial was not easy. He denied everything, tried to discredit the victims, to sow doubt. But thanks to our solid testimonies, to the evidence gathered, justice finally recognized him guilty of harassment and moral manipulation. He was sentenced to reimburse victims, including me. But for me, it wasn't the money that mattered. It was the recognition of my dignity, my right not to be humiliated. After the trial, my life changed. I regained confidence in myself, in others. I met sincere people, true friends. I decided to use my experience to help other women, to raise awareness, to prevent. I even started writing a blog, sharing my story, giving strength to those suffering in silence. This ordeal, painful as it was, made me stronger, more resilient. It taught me that truth always comes out. Today, I look back without hatred, just with a mix of sadness and pride. Sadness for what I lived through, pride for what I accomplished. This is just one chapter of my life, not the end. I keep moving forward, believing in humanity, despite everything. To those going through similar moments, I say, don't be silent. Speak up. Seek support. Dignity is a right, not a privilege. My story proves it. I am X, and I stand tall.